Hello, fellow translators. I was going to do another video, but I was asked by two different people recently about scams, and I realized I need to do a video about scams. They seem to be prevalent and they seem to be growing. They're all over the place, from LinkedIn to Facebook to even pros and everywhere. And so we really need to be careful about them. So I just wanted to create a checklist for red flags, things to look for to make sure that you don't get scammed, and what to do to make sure that this does not happen to you. Unfortunately, it happens. I mean, kind of something happens to everyone, and it seems to be happening more and more. So let's just make sure that you can learn from other people's mistakes and not your own. So let's get into it. So these are red flags that you should look out for right away. And as soon as you see them, you should either say no or you should get into gear. And so let's go through them quickly. The first one is Telegram. As a general rule, anything that asks you to add them on Telegram, to be on Telegram or anything like that, I'm going to say it's a scam. 99.7% of the time, I'm going to be right, and it will be a scam. The reason why Telegram is so bad is that it's completely anonymous. It's very easy to delete the chat, from both sides. So basically, the person who sends the stuff can then either disappear or just delete the chat completely, and there's no evidence that it ever existed. So Telegram is great for anonymity, but unfortunately, that means that when scammers hire you, they can be completely anonymous and you're never going to find them. And that's why they like to use Telegram, and that's why you should not use Telegram. Do not do business with people who are on Telegram. Quite frankly, I have not seen one legitimate business deal on Telegram, and I don't think I will in the near future. There's no real reason for legitimate businesses to use Telegram. I know some businesses already use Telegram. There's some in the crypto industry and stuff like that. So you can kind of see and assess yourself, but all your red flags should be up. And I'll give you some pointers later to kind of what to do to make sure they aren't scamming you. But yeah, Telegram, first and foremost, is a no-no. Second thing is a vague job description. And you see a lot of these. You see like translators in all languages needed. Big job, a lot of pay, something like that, with no details given. This is usually a red flag, and they just want people to sign up for one of the scams, which once again, I'm going to go through the scams later on and tell you what exactly they want out of you. But for now, just realize that a vague job description is a red flag. What you can do is ask for more details. And if they want you to sign up or do this or that before they give you details, that's kind of iffy. They should have no problem being able to give you the details, i.e. how long it is, what the language combination is, what skills they need, what the timeline is, etc., etc. Another red flag is free email addresses, and I'm talking about obviously Gmail, Hotmail, stuff like that. So these aren't always scammers, but often they are. And my general advice here is that if they're emailing you from a company, ask them to email you from their company name, or ask them what their company email address is. Because you'll get stuff from Gmail, Hotmail, and they'll say, oh, I'm from Deloitte & Touche. And you'll be like, okay, great, give me your work email, and then I'll email you there. So yeah, just be careful about that. Now, we'll get into it a bit later, but private people, a person can hire you as well. It doesn't have to be a company or organization. So they can say, this is my personal Gmail, my personal Hotmail. And that can obviously be the case, but then you should ask for some more information, which I'll get into later in terms of what to ask for. But keep in mind, if it's a company or organization or government or anything like that, they should not be emailing you with a Gmail or Hotmail. And so ask for their professional email address. The next point is hiring you without asking or verifying your skills or credentials. And a lot of times that's what they'll do. They'll just say, great, you're hired, sign up here. And they haven't even verified what, your CV, your resume, what your experience is, what your skills are, maybe not even your language combination, and they're just ready to hire you right away. And no one's going to do that. If they hire you, they want to hire you for a specific job, and they want to make sure that you have the credentials for that job. These things that are too good to be true and they hire you right away, those are red flags. And so if they're hiring you and they haven't verified any of your skills or anything yet, big red flag. This one goes without saying, but unfortunately it happens quite often, and I see people, do this. An upfront fee in order for you to get your wages. That's not how it works. Usually what I've seen is they will hire you, they'll ask you to do the translation, and once you've done the translation, you're like, cool, this person owes me like $400. Then they'll say, oh yeah, you can get the $400, but first you have to pay us, $30 to open your account. because we need it for the banking fee. And then later we can pay you from then on, you know, as much as you want. And we have so many more jobs coming. So don't worry, 30 bucks is nothing, blah, 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 blah. No, any upfront fee at all, it's a scam. So basically what you did was you just did $400 worth of work for them for free, which they don't even care about, and they're just trying to get those 30 bucks, and they work off volume, right? And you know, so they ask a bunch of people for the 30 bucks and hope they can make some money. So these are the steps that I recommend following just to make sure you don't get scammed. Now that you know what the red flags are, this is what I recommend doing. First of all, as I mentioned before, ask the name of the company or organization. Anytime they email you and they haven't said what their company, organization, agency, business is, ask them for it. And there's no reason for them not to tell you. And they'll make up excuses, say, oh, I can only tell you after you sign up, or this, that, and the other. No, you know, they can either tell you or they can't. That's it. Otherwise, it's a scam. And once they do that, once they tell you the company name, if and when they do, check the company on LinkedIn and Blueboard. Remember, even if they tell you the name of the company, it could be a really crappy company. And it could be one of those companies that's not allowed to post on pros.com or anything like that. By the way, for those wondering, Blueboard is on pros.com. Just search for pros.com Blueboard and you'll find it. And it's a list of all, basically, any company that deals with translation, they're going to be up there, and they're rated by other translators. So there you can see if they're legitimate or not. I would also check them on LinkedIn and see if other people tag them for non-payment or anything like that on LinkedIn. People are doing that more and more. And make sure they at least have a LinkedIn page because, yeah, any company or organization will have one these days. Now, I mentioned before, if it's an individual, they might just use their Gmail. They might not have a company organization. You know, maybe just someone is hiring you because they need their personal documents translated or something like that. And well, in that case, that's great. But you want to make sure you get some things from them as well. You want a real name, first of all. And a lot of times you can tell they aren't using their real name or the name changes or this, that, and the other. Yeah, you know, try to get something real from them. It could be their LinkedIn profile, maybe some of their social media, but I prefer their LinkedIn profile, a real name. And usually if they need you to translate documents, it'll be some of their personal documents with their real name on it. And so you can take a look at those as well. If nothing else, you can say for invoice purposes, can I get your address or, bank account information or something like that, just so I can write it up in the invoice. And you can always just say it's for invoice purposes and ask for their real name, contact details, phone number, whatever you can get. The next thing is you should confirm payment methods. And this isn't even for scams. Sometimes you'll do a translation and realize they only accept payment via some weird system that you can't do, and then it's a huge pain. So I generally recommend this anyway, ahead of time. But confirm payment methods. Is it PayPal? Is it bank transfer? Stuff like that. And once again, get their bank transfer information, get their PayPal information, something like that. And try to get it ahead of time or as early as possible so you can make sure they aren't scamming you. And if they say weird stuff like you have to send us a check or we'll send you a check and then you use whatever you need and then some, I don't know. Checks these days are very iffy. I would be very careful about checks. I haven't had to deal with a check probably more than a decade now, or close to a decade, because you're dealing internationally, and so it's very odd to use checks, even cashier's checks. Here are some other things that I would say you should look out for. Like I mentioned, if they don't care about your experience or skills, that's very odd, so that should kind of set off alarm bells. If the job posting is unclear, and I sort of mentioned this before, but they'll say stuff like, we need people in all different languages, but they don't specify what languages. If any of it seems unclear and they're not specifying and they're not telling you what they need exactly, that's just weird. The urgency is always something to look out for. And again, these aren't necessarily red flags, but they're things to look out for, right? The urgency, not every urgent job is a scam, but every scam is urgent, if that makes sense, right? And they'll need things done right away. They don't have time to give you all the details and stuff like that. So just try to see what the urgency is. If the payment sounds way too good, again, usually, very rarely is that the case, especially if this is one of your first jobs. It's a great payment and it seems really good, better than the other stuff you've been seeing. Yeah, you got to wonder why. And again, maybe you've been lucky, but yeah, alarm bells should be going off. And my recommendation here is that for big jobs, if they hire you and say, I need you to do this job and it'll be $4,000 total, and can you get started and blah, 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 you can say, absolutely. With new clients, I ask for either an upfront or milestone payment. An upfront payment will be a percentage. In my experience, even a small percentage is fine, even like 10%, because it shows that they're legit. And if they pay you 10% upfront, then you can get started on it. Or more commonly, you can do a milestone payment. You can say, okay, fine, you need a $4,000 job. Say, because it's a first client, what I'll do is I'll do, $100 worth at the beginning or $200 worth. You check it, make sure it's okay, make sure you like it, and send me the milestone payment for that. Then I'll get started on the rest of it to make sure, that we're all headed in the right track. And most people, if they're hiring you for a big job, especially if it's their first time hiring you, they'd appreciate, a milestone payment in the sense that they get to check your work before you send the full complete thing, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I generally recommend asking for one of these two options. Another thing you can do is if they ask you to translate something and you're not sure if it's a legitimate thing to be translated, copy and paste the text into a search engine. And if it looks like they just copied and pasted it from some random place, and if someone on Gmail is sending you something that they copied and pasted from the EU law website, that's not a good sign. And so yeah, feel free to Google it, copy and paste it, Google it, and see what turns up. And that should give you a good idea as well. Now, you might be wondering what scammers want out of you. And I already mentioned one of the things they do, but let's go into it a bit more in detail. There are two different angles that I usually see, and the first one is payment from you, like I already mentioned. They'll ask you to do a translation, you'll perform it, and they'll be like, okay, that was for, $500. Can you do this other one where you need it really quickly, and we'll pay you another $300 for it because it's a rush job. You're like, okay, and you do it for the next day. So that's, $800 they owe you. You're like, oh, sweet. And they're like, yeah, we can totally pay you right away. We just need to set up your account. And so could you send us a $30 payment, $50 payment, $20 payment, whatever it might be, just to set up the account? That's a one-time thing right at the beginning, and we need it, and they'll make something up. They'll say it's for the EIN, for the TIN, for the SWIFT code, for, something random, and they'll say we need it, this is standard, this is how it's done internationally, and so just pay that, and then we can pay you all your stuff and release the money. No, that's not how it works. That's not how any of it works. If that were the case, they should have told you up front. And if they didn't tell you up front, then yeah. And they figure the more they can get from you in terms of translation, the more vested you're in and the more likely you are to pay. That's why they ask you for these translations ahead of time, because then you're all excited about the money you're about to receive. And so you're more willing to pay them that money. The other thing that they might want is free translations from you. So what does this mean? Basically, what it says, they want some random translation from you, and but they don't want to pay for it. So they send you an email anonymously from their Gmail, Telegram. You do the translation for them, and then they disappear, and that's it. Be very careful about that as well, because unfortunately that happens. And that's why you should verify who they are ahead of time. Check them out on the Blue Board, on LinkedIn, and stuff like that. By the way, while I'm at it, there is another version of this, which is the free test. So what they do there is they hire you and they say, oh, we need you to do a free test. And people ask for free tests all the time. I've done other videos about it. I'm really against them. But they ask for a free test. So they'll get you to do the test, and you do it well, and you do a good job, and they send that to the end client. And the end client says, okay, I like it. And then they tell you, sorry, you're not hired. But then, they just use AI or use a cheap translator to do the final thing. So anyway, just so you know, these are things they can ask from you. So just be careful and be alert about them. And that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, it sounds all doom and gloom. Look, most people out there who hire you are going to be legitimate translators as long as you go the legitimate routes. And it's, most people you see on pros, on LinkedIn and stuff like that, they might not pay well or this, that, and the other, but they'll be at least legitimate and honest, hopefully. But do your homework, definitely ahead of time. Check out those red flags and make sure, keep this video handy if you have to, and make sure you check for each and every job so you don't end up doing a week's worth of work and it's for nothing, or even worse, paying them and then they disappear because, yeah, you don't want that to happen. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, feel free to click like and subscribe and all that stuff if you want to see more, or share it with other people who you think will find it useful. Or just, yeah, like I said, keep those red flags in mind, keep it handy just so you can use it whenever needed. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you later. Savedum.